Okay, we're going to be looking at the idea, oh geez, wrong pen, here we go, of dividing by fractions as a concept, because this is going to be a hard idea, and I'll kind of get into it as we get into the fraction. But the very first thing I want to do is I want to start with just whole number division here. So we have a whole, so this is our whole, this is our visual of our whole, we have our rectangle, and we want to divide it into 3. So kind of like when we have this piece, it should be split into 3. Okay, so we split into 3. That's not that hard to do. Okay, so we split it 1, 2, 3, right? And 1 divided by 3, I'm going to write everything as either whole number answers or as fractions, is 1 over 3. So in other words, we're looking at a third of our original. Okay, so we split into 3 even pieces, and they were looking for a third of that. Well, that makes sense. Okay, that's easier to see. We had a whole number divided by a whole number. In our next one, we have our whole, which is our number 1 again, and we need to divide it into 2 even pieces, starting with our whole. So here's our whole, and we divide it into 2 even pieces. That's pretty easy. We cut it down the middle. It's a concept we kind of understand. We know that our answer here is going to be 1 over 2, or a half. Okay, so the answer we're looking for is essentially a half here. Okay, and then we have our next one. 1 divided by 1. Okay, so we have our whole piece, okay, and we need to make it, so the idea is we needed 3 pieces at the end here. With our divided by 3, we need it to be 2 pieces at the end here. Here we need, whoops, wrong button. Here we need this 1 piece to be essentially 1 piece. So there is no dividing of this piece, it is what it is, it's 1 whole. So we're keeping that as a whole. We know that 1 divided by 1 is the number 1. So when we're highlighting, we're essentially keeping the entire piece here. Okay, so as you notice a pattern before we get into our fractions, that as this number decreases, okay, our answers are getting much larger. Okay, as you notice. So we divided by 3, that was our smallest answer. We divided by 2, so as that number is decreasing, our number got larger, or our amount got larger. We divided by 1, that number decreased. Our amount got larger still. So, here's an idea. This is where it gets tough. 1 divided by a half. So, our number is decreasing, that we're dividing by. So, our answer should get larger, but how do we get larger than our whole? Okay. So, think of it like we needed this to be a third. We need it to be 3 even pieces. Well, now we need this to be a half of something. So we need this piece that we started with to be a half of something. So for this to be a half of something, think of it like we need another one. Okay, I'm going to duplicate it, or clone, there it is. We clone it. And now our piece here, this is now a half, think of it as a half, of all of this. Okay. So this original that we started with, it was a half of what our final answer is. Here's our final answer. It's the 2 pieces. Okay? So what that means, 1 divided by a half, and this is where we get that idea of inverting and multiplying. You know, this is the same as 1 over 1. And instead of dividing, we multiply by 2 over 1. We've inverted this answer here. And we get an answer of 2 over 1, multiply top by top, bottom by bottom, which is 2. So 1 divided by half is the idea of 2, and it kind of follows our pattern. Remember we said that our numbers were, as we decrease these numbers, our amounts were getting larger, so this number got smaller, and this, instead of being 1 whole, it's actually 2 wholes. So instead of dividing by a half, it would have been much easier if we just multiply by 2. 1 times 2 gives us 2 wholes. Okay. So that can be kind of like your shortcut, your workaround. It's easier just to multiply by that value. So with that being said, a third is smaller than a half, so this number is decreased again. Here's our original piece. We need this original piece to be a third of our final answer. Well, to be a third of our final answer, we essentially need 2 more of these. We need to multiply by 3. Remember we said that would be the shortcut. Instead, let's just multiply by 3. Okay. So I'm going to clone this twice here. Clone And one more time. Boom. So now our original, so we have room here, here we go. This was our original, this guy here. He is a third of our total final answer. Our total final answer is 3 pieces. Okay. So the idea is that when we're dividing, I'll highlight what our final answer here would be. When we divide by a third, it's the same idea as multiplying by the invert of that. Okay, color that all in. Okay. So that follows our pattern, and hopefully it kind of makes sense. We needed this answer to be 1/3 of our final answer. Okay, well, what we started with was that whole rectangle, and we got a third of it here. When we divided this by 2, we needed our answer to be a half of our original whole, so that makes sense. This was our half here. We needed this 1 to be the 1 whole of what we started with. Well, we started with this whole, and that is the whole, so that's our 1 piece. Here we needed to divide it by half, so we needed what we started with to be half of our answer, and that's right, this is half of our whole answer. And when we divided by a third, we needed what we started with to be 1/3 of our final answer, and that makes sense. This piece here is a third of our final answer.